Righty, we are recording. This is the Daily Bread Project. I'm getting everything set up so we can jump into this thing. Today we have a guest, another special guest, another one of my favorite people, and that's the blessing that I have in this life that Cupcake and I created is that we get to work with people we love, and today is no exception. Today, I'm going to be bringing you Mr. Greg Smith from the Rise Above podcast, a friend, a mentor. I've learned a lot from him, a great referral partner, and just an all around good guy who every time I talk to him, I'm uplifted. So I can't wait to get him here on the air with you guys so you can experience Greg Smith. He should be showing up any minute now. I am going to just check all my settings and get prepared to jump into the Daily Bread Project with you today. Of course, I think he has like 4 kids at home. So he's probably got his hands full. Let's make sure all these settings are correct and make sure we can jump onto Facebook. Have you guys been watching the stock market by chance? Zoom is the most popular app in the world right now. Schools are using it. Businesses are using it. Before that, I don't know that anybody knew what Zoom was, but it's going crazy. The reason I'm talking about that's because I took a beating in Zoom stock last year, and now it's popping, and I'm playing it again. And I'm not giving financial advice. Just know that. All right, look who's here. It's Greg. Mr. Smith, what is up, my brother?
Hey, man, what is going on?
Everything. It's all happening. I'm getting us live to Facebook so we can jump into this thing and rock and roll. How you feeling?
Good. Oh, let me, I didn't realize my camera wasn't on. All right. I almost thought I came in as you were doing a conversation with somebody else.
I was talking to myself. That's what I do. Talk to myself till you guys arrive. Just figuring out the workflow here. We got this whole workflow going. Now, I don't know if you're on a computer. I can't see you yet. I'm going to look at you now. Bro, if you wouldn't mind, go to my page and share this to yours so we can get as many people or as many ears and eyes on this as possible. And we're going to jump into this. So welcome to the Daily Bread Project. I am stoked that you are here. And our goal is to bring you the light. In the world that we have today, where there's a lot of wackiness, there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of darkness, our mission here is to bring you the light. And the way we do that is by bringing you the absolute best people in the world that we know to bring the light with us, because I can't do this all by myself. So today I have very special guests with me, a friend, a mentor, a guy that is always uplifting, Mr. Greg Smith from the Rise Above podcast. What is up, my brother?
What's happening? How are you today?
Yo, I'm awesome. I mean, it's been a while since we recorded something together, so I don't even know what you have in store for us today, but thank you for taking the time out. I know you got like 37 kids at home and they're running wild, and you're taking time out to be with us. So I really appreciate that, Greg. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. So what are you seeing, man? What's good in your world? We're bringing the light. So what are you seeing in the world that's making you feel positive right now?
You know, one of the best things I think that's happening that I'm seeing as I walk the neighborhood is people are slowing down. It's like a forced slowdown right now, which I think a lot of people dream about having the ability to slow down. Everybody's so busy all the time. And now what's really cool is people are actually forced, at least here in Ohio, forced to slow down, forced to really focus on what matters. And I think it's giving people a lot of clarity. It's kind of like forced clarity right now. And I love it.
How are you doing it, man? You have all these children at home, and I mean, half of them at least, right? Go to school. You have 4 children?
I have 4 kids. Yeah. Seven, 4, almost 5, and then 2, which is almost 3, and then 6 months old. So I actually, this morning for about 45 minutes, I took my 2-year-old out and I did my walk, and I had her yesterday. I did my walk, and I took my 7-year-old out. And so I've been kind of isolating them from each other, because things can get a little wild in the household. So it's been really good. I mean, it's definitely, it's nice when they're at school because you can get a lot of things done. Um, so it has interrupted a lot of the work stuff that I normally do, because oftentimes I'm doing a Zoom like this and it's kind of quiet, but it's like people are just used to interruptions right now, so it's all good. But they're actually doing really well. We've created a structure at home in terms of like when we eat, we're eating as a family with more meals, and it's been interesting.
Let's talk about that then, because you have your workday scheduled out. You're actually someone who I consider almost like a productivity guru. You get more done than most other people. So how has this impacted your productivity?
I think it was interesting. The first week or so, when everything kind of started to happen, I think it was like March 13th, like that Friday the 13th. I was actually in Chicago, and I had driven to Chicago so that way I can make sure if anything happened with flights or what have you. Like, I had my big old Tundra. I'm like, I'll drive through cornfields if I have to get home, like I'll find my way home. So for the next week, it was kind of like shock and awe. Like, what's going on? I don't even know how to process this. Ohio got locked down pretty quickly. Um, and it was kind of like putting on your own oxygen mask first, like on the plane, like, hey, you got to take care of yourself first so then you can take care of everybody. So I think we're all kind of like putting on, at least my family, like we're putting on our own oxygen mask, making sure we have food and, 100 rolls of toilet. No, I'm just kidding. But, make sure we have the
Garage full.
necessities. And yeah, this is funny. So, but then my wife, she's really good. She's really regimented. Like when it comes to getting children to sleep, she is like the sleep guru, like 100%. And so this has really pulled out some of the best qualities in her, because we're eating breakfast, at like 9 o'clock, then we're having lunch at noon, then we're having dinner at 5:36. We've had a fire the last couple nights sitting around, and we're doing puzzles together as families. So, work wise, it's been interesting because for the first week, I really didn't do a whole lot. The first week was still kind of like, you cannot be creative when you're in a fight or flight response. And not that I was freaking out, but it was just kind of like, you're trying to figure out like, how is this going to affect us? What can we do? I can't go out and do what I normally would do all the time. So how am I going to adapt to this? And so we've, a lot of my businesses are primarily online, Zoom wise, as you know. So that really hasn't changed much. It's just been the figuring out like, okay, I'm shutting my phone off. Like, and before I'd have my phone kind of on longer during the day because my kids would be at school. And now it's like, no, I got to get these 2 hours in to keep them sane, which keeps my wife sane, which keeps the whole household sane.
Yeah, I was feeling that. I was having a conversation with Cupcake yesterday, and I'm like, I don't know why I'm starting to get a little irritable. I mean, it's only been a week, and she's like, dude, it's been 2 weeks. Wake up. And I'm like, what? This has been going on 2 weeks?
I know.
I don't know, but I've changed my schedule too. Like my schedule would typically be a big block of work while the boy is at school, and now it's like daily bread and then go do family stuff, homework, breakfast, and all that stuff, and then come back to work.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're all adapting.
Yes. It's, and you're, like your workout or your regimen, I know you're walking, like if you guys follow his Instagram, you'll see like your morning walk and all that stuff. For me, it's like, it's it's grappling. And so like, I haven't been able to grapple for really 3 weeks because the week I was in Chicago. So it's been like, for me, I'm like, okay, so now I'm walking, that's like, I'm like, all right, I'll take a book out of JR's or a note out book, your book, and I'll start walking. And that's been helpful. And then scrambling with Sam a lot, wrestling. So that kind of helps with the irritability. But yes, it's wild. I mean, I didn't even realize it was Friday today.
They're all blending together, aren't they?
It is.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's getting crazy out there, man. So with all this craziness and your schedule being turned upside down and the kids being home, uh, how do you stay positive, bro?
Oh, man, that's a good question. For me, like this morning, as I was walking, I was reading the word. So, I mean, that's ground zero. So if you're a believer, you know, need to be spiritually at peace. So I think that's step number one. And then I've always had like, I think there's this, you have to have a stoic mentality, which I've garnished over the years, where you can only control what you can control. And so right now there's certain things that you can control. Like right now, I'm like, my hair actually doesn't look too bad, but I'm thinking about just taking like a number two all the way around, you know,
Yeah,
like,
buddy.
because I can't get a haircut right now. You know, I can't control that. So I think it's coming to terms with like, what can you control and what can't you control? And as you can hear,
I
the
hear
kids
them.
downstairs, yeah, um, the forced interruptions on Zooms. But it's just having that mentality of like, okay, I can control how healthy I stay. I can control what I'm eating. I can control what I'm reading and inputting. Am I going to use this time wisely? I know for the first week or so, it was just like zoning out and kind of like, don't really know. And then it's like, okay, no, this is actually great because I have more time than ever to finish things that aren't finished, to start things that I've wanted to start, and to really sit around and think of things that I want to do, you know, and how to help more people.
Speaking of that, most people are just focused on themselves and getting through the day. We're fortunate, all of us in the Podcast Factory family are fortunate that we don't have to think about that. So, what are some of the big opportunities that you're seeing right now?
Financially wise, like what somebody can do,
Anything. What's an
or
opportunity? Like you just gave me an opportunity that you have time to finish and start new things. What are other opportunities that you're seeing that you're really excited about?
man, that's a good question. You know, one of the opportunities which I hope actually comes out of this is a revamping of the educational system. I think that's something, you know, I don't want to get too far into that, but you
Well,
know, I
why
was
does
talking.
it need to be revamped? I do want to talk about that. I think that's an interesting topic. So why would it need to be revamped? What's your take on that?
Oh man, I think that colleges are overpriced. I think that's a balloon within and of itself. Um, Man, that's a deep question. But here's the deal. I mean, the thing about colleges and the reason they're priced the way that they are is because the college is not liable to collect the funds for the person who's paying them. So they're guaranteed to get paid. And so originally, you know, it's easier to get into college than it is to get a business loan, right?
Yeah,
And so I can get into college, take a loan out, you know, over the years. Let's just even say it's 50 grand, you know, but
that's
some of these are
a
100.
little loan.
Right, that's what I mean. So, you know, some of these are like $200,000. I have friends that have this, and to get a business loan for 200 grand, man, you got to give blood. They're checking your DNA. I mean, my goodness, like once you find a good financer, which I have, it's like they have everything on file. I just make a call finally. Like it's taken me 15 years to get to that point where I can make a call and say, hey, I need money. Let's figure out what are your best terms. And they have everything on file. But when it comes to college, originally, you know, the government wasn't backing that up. But once the government started backing it up and saying, hey, nobody can go bankrupt and get rid of their student loans, right? You can get rid of all other loans. You can't get rid of student loans or taxes. Now, all of a sudden, the price for college starts going up and up and up. And so I think there are more effective ways to learn what it is that a lot of people need to learn. And it depends on, I'm not saying college is a bad thing. I'm just saying I think it can be revamped pricing wise. I think a lot of the teachers should even get paid more than what they probably do. So I don't know. I think there's a whole world out there where you can learn a lot of things online these days. And now we're kind of forced into an online education. Um, Although I think there's something to be said for the social aspect. Like my kids, you know, I would love to homeschool them, but at the same time, like they need to learn all of the social things that you learn at school. But I think as the higher grades go up, I think that can get revamped. And this may be the precursor to that, because it's being forced right now.
It is incredible that all these schools, and I actually was talking about that right before you got on here, was like, I was talking about Zoom stock and how I was playing Zoom, and I got hit hard last year because I played it at the wrong time, but I'm playing again. And every school, everybody's like, oh, we're meeting on Zoom. We're doing two-day classroom on Zoom and all this stuff. It's online learning. And I think it's super interesting. It's like out of nowhere, we've been using this for years, and now
Yep.
all of a sudden it's changing. I'm going to tell you something about that homeschool thing. With you guys, it's very difficult because you have the 4 kids, and it's just a lot, because we are the same way. I really didn't want to send Huddy to regular school because I was afraid, not just of the broke mentality of the teachers, because I mean, they have
Yep.
a mentality that's different than mine, but even worse, the kids that they spend all the time with, which is what we're calling the social aspect, because that's what we were afraid of, is like the social aspect. Like, they're not going to be social. And we are in a program, Huddy starts next year, Highlands Latin School, where it's a mixture of in class 2 days a
Yeah.
week and at home
Yep.
3 days a week. And the thing that put Cupcake over the top on that was when Rachel asked about the social aspect, and the director was like, well, who do you want to teach your kids socially? Do you want them to learn from other kids, or do you want them to learn from you? I'm like, oh God, now we're out of excuses. We only have 1 kid, though. It's easy. I mean,
Yeah.
there's 2 of us against 1 kid, not 2 against 4, so
Yep.
it's easier. But I'm with you. I think education is a mess. I don't think it prepares you for real life, and I think it's making kids dumb. Like, kids are just dumb because all they do is memorize stuff, and they are not learning how to think.
They don't learn how to learn.
And they don't love to learn either. Like, look at the books behind you, bro. You love to learn. That's why you're always growing. I love to learn. That's why I'm growing. In school, they crushed my spirit for learning, and I hated to learn.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. And it's also there are schools out there now that have started to pivot in the way that they're teaching, and really fostering, like, what does a kid want to learn, like teaching the basics, but then really fostering what it is that they're wanting to learn. Because I think that's the biggest thing is, as I went throughout school, I didn't want to learn some of these things, but you're forced to learn it. And some of it is applicable as you get older. A lot of it's not, but it's like, if you can start to get into like a classical learning, like, what are you actually interested in? What do you have a passion for? Then the kid actually wants to learn, it's interesting because, MIT, a lot of people don't know that MIT has all of their stuff, all of their course and curriculums are online for free.
Yeah.
But most people won't take it because you're not paying for it. You're not forced to.
Yeah.
But somebody who's interested in it would pull it up. Like, I've pulled stuff up and learned from it,
That's amazing. That is
Yeah.
amazing. All right, cool. Let's talk about growth and learning. What do you do to keep yourself growing, man?
I think there's I always say, like, there's 3 things. One is surrounding yourself by people. A lot of people say it's always good to be the dumbest person in the room. So that's what I did actually last week, or 2 weeks ago. So I lost track of time. So when I was in Chicago, it was a 4-man group, and I was one of the dumbest guys in the group, and I paid thousands to be there, which, I could have done that, or I could have paid, like, for me as an entrepreneur, I'd rather pay for that than college, right? That was just my way of learning. And so I think investing in whatever it is that you're wanting to do, and let's say that you're not an entrepreneur, it's always good. Let's say you're trying to grow spiritually, or you're trying to grow relationally with your spouse. Like, you should be surrounded by people who are further ahead in the growth game than you are, right? Because if you're the king of all of your friends, in terms of
They're
the,
gonna hate you.
well, and then you're gonna become the person that everybody calls to troubleshoot, and then who do you call, right? So I think having mentors in specific areas of your life right? So if you're talking financially, spiritually, health-wise, all of those, I think books, obviously, big proponent. This, a small bit of my books, investing in books. Mentors, and which really that's what courses are too. If you're buying online courses or so forth, as you're buying the education. But I think the growth, one of the most important aspects of growth is who are you surrounded by? 100%.
So you said three things. You said people, you said books. Is there one other one?
People, books. I tried to, I actually did an entire podcast episode about this. Hold on, I have notes here. People, books, courses
and environment. So maybe there's four.
Yeah, here we go. Reading, surrounding yourself with other people, which would be the environment, and then a mentor.
Got it. Yeah, I'm seeing, and anybody listening, anybody watching, anybody out there that is looking for growth, this is it. Like books are the most. I mean, you don't even have to buy a book. You can go to the library and get that. So you really don't have an excuse there. Courses and that kind of thing, you might have to invest. And I'll tell you, and you know this about me. Actually, this is one of the things that you and I have in common. Well, we have plenty of stuff in common, but it's like we love to pay for access. Like
Yeah.
give me some, give me some access, and I'll pay whatever it takes to get there, so I can elevate my game. So paying for access is another secret when you can afford it. And mentors come all different ways. It could just be by going to iTunes and looking for Rise Above podcasts and getting mentored by Greg, listening to his show. It could be a book on your shelf, or it could be getting into a mastermind that you invest many tens of thousands in, like Greg was just talking about. So there's all kinds of options for growth there. So Greg, go ahead.
Hey, hang on, because here's the interesting thing, because part of what we just talked about was paying for mentors, right? But you can pay, right? So if money isn't an issue, then pay for your mentors. But you can also gain the favor of mentors. And I think that's one thing that's often lost is somebody says, well, I don't have the money for that person or that. Whereas I got very creative at a young age, where what I would do is if I saw somebody who had something I wanted, I would start to be like, how can I just did this yesterday with somebody. I said, hey, how can I serve you? How can I make your life better right now? What is something that you're working on? And so you can also earn the favor of a mentor as well, which I think if money is an issue, is so easy to do. I mean, because there are guys out there that do very well in business that would love to have a hungry person that wants to learn, because frankly, most of those people love to teach. Like, I love to teach, but I want the person to apply it.
Yes.
And somebody who's hungry, that's looking to earn favor so they can excel and grow themselves. That's one of the best people to surround, like for me, that's highly fulfilling, so you can also earn the favor too. I just want to put that out there.
Well, now that you're talking about that, I'm not sure if you know this or if you've heard this, but the reason that you and I are together right now, the reason you and I are friends is because I did that. I earned the favor. I ingratiated myself with Ben Settle.
Yeah.
Back in like 2011 or something. And then that became the business relationship. It became the Ben Settle show, and it became where you first heard me.
Yeah.
And so that's it. Is like, you can do that, but it's action. Action is what a real mentor wants. It's like if you're talking into a void, there's no satisfaction. There's satisfaction when you talk into that person and they grow from it and they profit and they excel.
Yep.
And that's the satisfaction we get when we're mentoring people. And that's what you have to do.
Yep.
So Greg's opening himself up for mentor spots. Go. Oh man. All right. So what are some of the other things, like how did you stormproof yourself? Because I know that this is going to affect all of us, this whole thing going on, but some of us less than others because we've kind of weatherproofed before we got here. So what are some of the things you did to get yourself storm ready?
That's interesting, because I've been talking about that a lot, where I'm always making contingency plans. And a lot of people can think like that's negative or you're looking at worst case scenarios, but I'm always looking at, well, what could happen, right? Like I'm in Ohio and I have earthquake insurance.
Really?
Oh yeah, it could happen. I mean, it won't, but it's like $50 a year. I don't know how much it is. Don't quote me on that. It's very inexpensive because the probabilities are so high. But you know what? Could happen. So I have insurance on that. And so some people would think that's crazy, but the same thing goes for your finances. So back, I blew a lot of money, probably in my first, I would say, let's see, from '07 to 2013. Like it was actually from like 11 to 13 because that's when I started making money. And then I realized, okay, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much you can keep and then what you can do with it. And so since then, I've been on a quest to set up certain percentages of money that goes in certain pockets. And I've always diversified that outside of whatever it is that I'm currently doing. And so I think a lot of people they may have a golden goose, which might be their job, right? The job is the thing that's laying the golden eggs and that's paying them. You may have a business that's cash flowing exceptionally well, which I used to until last May. I had one go belly up, hundreds of thousands of dollars gone. I have two other really good successful businesses right now. One that I already had in play before that one went away. So that gave me buffer time. But my point is this: a lot of people have the goose that lays the golden eggs, the job, the career, the business. But what they're not doing is taking the egg and letting it hatch over here to create another goose that lays more eggs. They just take the egg and they eat it. Fried eggs, scrambled eggs. Like, oh, how many more ways can I have my eggs? Instead, you need to take the egg, you need to foster that egg, put it in the incubator, right? And have it start laying eggs too, even if those legs are mini eggs, like whatever it is. And so financially wise, it's always been, okay, I shouldn't be living on 100% of what I'm making, and that was a huge mindset shift from when I actually created this video. So funny. This is how I used to live. So I'd increase my paycheck, right? And then I'd buy more liabilities, a better car. Like, how can I get a pay raise so I can buy a better car? How can I get a pay raise so I can get a bigger house? How can I get a pay raise so I can XYZ? And what would that do? It decrease my net worth, which AKA put me in more debt. So then what would I need to do? How can I get a pay raise this year? How can I get a pay raise this year so I can buy something else? And I started buying all these liabilities and started looking at it. So then I changed it. So funny you asked, like, this is just from a YouTube video I did, but
this guy, he's prepared. Look at him.
Increase my income, invest into assets, which increases my net worth, right? One of the first things that you can do though, instead of investing into assets, is invest into debt payoff, right? So you can create more cash flow. What's the best way you can give yourself a raise? Get rid of a monthly bill. But instead, we get a raise and we add to the monthly bill. So I got rid of that mindset a long time ago because I found myself in a never-ending cycle of not having enough money, no matter how much money I made. And there's like, okay, reduce all that down. And now when I increase, I can increase to another goose.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually, it's so interesting. And this is, if anybody's following, and I'm not guessing that anybody is following, but James Pollard, Financial Advisor Marketing, he was on earlier this week and he talked about something similar. His take on it was invest or make the money and invest in a cash flow. And so instead of thinking about net worth, he was thinking about more cash flows. So buying cash flows so that he could offset everything else. But it's the same kind of thinking, is make more money and invest it one way or another, invest it. So I love that, Greg. I love that you brought that. So we're coming up on the end. Anything else you want to say as we're wrapping up the Daily Bread project for today?
No, I think the key right now for everybody is just to sit back and reflect and really think about what's important and how you want your life to be when things go back to normal. Do you just want to go back to everything, or what are some lessons? I think the best thing you can do right now is journal. I mean, boom, be thinking about another journal. Like, be thinking about what are the things that you're learning right now. What do you like about having more time? What do you not like about it? What are your thought patterns from it? And so I think what would be tragic is to go through a world event like we are right now and not come out different, whatever that means for you. Like if you go through this whole thing and then you just go back to being the same, I think it was just lost opportunity. So I think really taking the time and reflect so you can learn.
I love that, man. So we are going to wrap the Daily Bread Project for today. Greg, I'll hit you up on Facebook. Give me 5 minutes and we'll do our next meeting.
Cool.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being so generous with your time. Thank you for everything you shared. And thank you for always being an inspiration. Everybody, that is Greg Smith, the Rise Above podcast. You can find him everywhere you listen to podcasts. And we'll be back in your earbuds and in your eyes, since we're doing Facebook Lives tomorrow.